AMC Theaters and other chains announced that they will not play any Universal films anymore in the wake of the Trolls War II debacle. Disney announced Artemis Fowl will not have a theatrical release and instead head directly to Disney+. HBO and Amazon acquired a bunch of films that are also skipping a theatrical release and instead will be placed in their streaming services. The question: is this global pandemic pushing studios and distributors away from movie theaters? Well, the answer is a tad more complicated than that. Let's start off by saying, yes, this pandemic is causing the biggest economic crisis in history. Therefore, all industries will be hit, including the film business. Luckily for studios, between going solo on SVOD distribution and countless VOD channels, they can still profit or at least mitigate losses on their projects. So, it's undeniable that the ones that are being hit the most in the industry are indeed the exhibitors. With them staying closed for more than 2 months, it's likely some will not open ever again. We can just hope the number of victims will be as low as possible. However, while the ditching of theaters is obviously prompted by them being closed, the situation pushed some considerations in terms of what should have a direct-to-consumer distribution instead of a traditional one. We can actually see that by what Disney did with its slate. They pushed movies like Black Widow and Mulan because they had good estimates both locally and globally, hence distributing them through VOD or Disney Plus didn't make much sense. Artemis Fowl has a different fate though. The Kenneth Branagh direct blockbuster didn't have good tracking, though it was too early for precise estimates obviously, and it seemed the perfect candidate to test the release of big-budget movies exclusively on Disney+. Same thing can be said for Universal. The studio pushed No Time to Die to November because they want to cash in as much as possible on Daniel Craig's last Bond appearance, while they had Trolls War II hit VOD rentals the same day it hit theaters on a limited run because it didn't have good tracking to begin with. Sure, we had cases of majors sending movies to services like Netflix to mitigate losses. Mowgli and the Cloverfield Paradox both skipped an initially planned theatrical release and were released on the big end. Paramount did the same with Annihilation, though only in selected countries. But what's exactly scaring exhibitors? The fact Trolls War II turned out to be a financial success thanks to a record-breaking rental performance, and they are worried that may not be an isolated case. There is one obvious consideration to make here though. The rental costs $9.99. Put that cost against a family of 3 going to the theater, and it's a no-brainer just by considering the tickets cost alone. Will that change families' movie-going habits? It all depends if majors will continue to pursue this day-and-date distribution method involving rentals. And the reality is they will not. The release of a movie is planned a year or more ahead, with a marketing plan drafted around the same time, with it kicking off at least 3 months prior to the film's release date. 6 months if the movie is a blockbuster. Hence, generally speaking, the tracking or estimates are nowhere to be found when the studio makes the decision to distribute a movie in theaters. Which means a studio can't change the destination of its product after it spent millions of dollars in marketing and PR just because it has low estimates 2 to 3 weeks pre-release. The 3 movies I mentioned before were sent to Netflix months prior to the initially planned release and didn't start a heavy marketing campaign just yet. What happened with Trolls and other movies is due to the pandemic. This provided unusual circumstances that forced studios and distributors to think outside of the box to avoid saturating their own calendars. That undeniably prompted them to make some experiments, but the results are not guaranteed to be the same when the world will return to normal. Obviously, studios will attempt some releases through these means even in normal times, but those will be titles specifically fitting the purpose from the get-go, much like Disney is doing with its Disney Plus original movies. In short, the answer is no. Studios and distributors are not ditching movie theaters, and won't be doing so unless the profit margins on tickets become very slim. But, to this day, the best return on investment scenario is only possible with a traditional distribution run. As far as the Universal V Theaters case goes, I really got nothing to say about them. It's a useless fight that will end with Universal movies playing in those theaters simply because it makes financial sense for both parties. With this video, I hope I cleared up some of the fears portals are feeling for the sake of clickbait. If you like the video, subscribe and leave a thumbs up. My name is Luke Ripa, your favorite Italian filmmaker on YouTube, and I'll see you on my next video.